plough into it. So, well, hello everybody. This is the Tuesday night team training call for Sankey area, and it is November the 24th today. Basically, today I wanted to go through a training on toxic behaviours, because it's something that we all have, at least one or two, maybe three, a propensity towards, shall we say. So if we cover those, then you can at least jot down the ones that you think relate to you. And then obviously this week's homework, or shall we say task, I don't know which people prefer, will be to actually go away and be conscious of the three or the two or the one that you actually think apply to you, and then consciously be aware of it in your everyday dealings, and obviously then try and correct it. Because once you're aware of these things, it's obviously easy to deal with. We will all hear the things that we're ready to hear. So there's a saying, isn't there? The teacher can teach when the student is ready to listen. So basically, you might want to go over this training several times, because you might not actually see or hear in it the full extent of it at the first time round. It's all about sort of correcting your mindset, making sure your mindset's in the right place, and addressing certain habits that you might have got and certain paradigms that you've built up, throughout your life. So number one is envy and jealousy. Ooh, everybody says. Who, me? Jealous? So envy and jealousy, it's the art of counting somebody else's blessings rather than your own. It's not worth it, as it will take you out the game. So this is an essential one that you've got to get over. And you've heard everybody talk about, don't compare yourself to somebody else's journey. Their journey is their journey, and yours is always going to be totally different. So if somebody is, doing great stuff and you're not doing particularly well, don't take it on board. Just move on and keep going, be consistent, and just doing your own thing. So don't be ever envious of other people. So that's quite a simple one, really. Number two, taking everything too seriously and too personally. So be mindful you don't take their story personally. So if somebody wants to say to you, oh, it's one of those pyramid things, and oh God, how can you sell to your friends? All that sort of thing, then you've just got to learn to react in the correct fashion. Basically, people's reaction to you is largely speaking a reflection of themselves, and someone else's opinion of you just doesn't matter. It doesn't count. And if it doesn't fit and it doesn't feel comfortable to you, if it doesn't look, just say goodbye to it. Say thank you for that feedback. It's all good. But if it's coming from a place of emotion and it's not good and it's negative, then you just need to move away from it immediately. And you need to then operate from a solid position. So that's all about building up your confidence, which, there's lots of trainings going on at the moment. And I'll refer to that in the previous training that we did have last week. And I'm going to do another video with it all incorporated. So I will email that separately to everybody. That's a training that I had with Ian and some other people down in Coventry a week last Sunday. So I will re-record that and I'll send it out to everybody. So basically, number three, consistently complaining and believing you're a victim. So we've all got stuff in the past, and we've all, to a certain degree, got the poor me stance to a lesser or greater extent. It's inevitable, because most of us have reached an age where things have happened to us and we just think, oh my God, poor me. Why does it always happen to me? Why is their life so great and mine is so shit? Excuse me. But when you refuse to see yourself as a victim, you can grow and move out of the past. It's very important that you don't drag the past with you. Each day, every day is a new start. It's a new beginning. And if you want it to be positive and you want to attract positivity into your new life, the last thing you can do is afford to be dragging your past life along with you, because that is just literally going to drag you down. So you need to learn to let go of the stuff. So if you've lost people in the past, if you've had a bad relationship, you've got divorced, you've had a breakup, you don't see your kids so much, all those things. You might have had a death in the family, you might have a death of a loved one, whatever. You know, it's basically, yeah, it could be something as simple as the person who's quit your business. You know, that can be really devastating if you allow it to be. But at the end of the day, you're not responsible for other people's success. You can only show them this opportunity. You can then offer them the trainings that go with it. You can show them the necessary steps to get started and get onto the road to DM, and then from DM and onwards. And then really it's down to them to actually, you know, put in that work. So you've got to let go of the guilt or the anger or the frustration or any sense of loss. Let go of any disappointment and stop creating stories. So change isn't easy, but let it go and clear out all toxic thoughts of the past. Don't hoard feelings that aren't serving you. Number 5, negativity. Don't fuel it. So what you put your energy into will manifest. So if you're focusing continually on negativity, it might be negative people. You might be sort of battling in, how do I deal with this person? This person is driving me potty because they're continually throwing negativity at me and negative questions. And, you know, it can actually then induce negativity in yourself. And what actually happens then is that you're actually batting it backwards and forwards. So Ian quoted an example of where he had this with somebody in his team, and for some reason or other he changed, and instead of getting angry and annoyed and irritated by this person and avoiding them at all costs, he decided to be really giving and really loving. So he made a massive effort to say, I need to correct this part of your behavior if I can help you, and this is what I suggest, this is what I recommend you do. And he was very loving, overly loving. And he said within a very short space of time, that person completely changed and there was no longer any of that negativity. So he realized that basically, you know, he was exacerbating that and he was making it a lot worse. And by being negative back to that person, he was then encouraging more negativity. So I thought that was a really interesting point. So are you showing up and focusing on the positivity? Basically, ask yourself that. Number 6, inability to manage your emotions and control them. It's not good if you're on a roller coaster of emotion. So, yeah, celebrate those successes, but move on. You know, do the wahoo bit for 10 minutes and then move on. Get on to the next stage. Don't be short with people. Reel it in and breathe deeply, smile, wave, and just move through it. So try and be a consistently stable, emotional person and keep it on an emotionally intelligent level. So you don't want to be that person who's like always crying like the guy on X Factor, you know, Anton. He was so emotionally involved with his performance that he couldn't actually be, you know, in control of it. So that's the last thing you want to do. Excuse me. Hello? I'm just in the middle of my Zoom call. Okay, I'll call you back. Bye. Huh. What was that last one? Don't be short, reel it in, breathe, smile, wave, and move through it. Right, so number 7, this is really important. Making superficial judgments towards others. Don't make a judgment by what they show to you. Sometimes you may see a mask. Very often you see a mask, to be fair. Remember to come from a place of non-judgment. There may be more to it, so don't ever make a point of humiliating people. Love on them and build them up. So never shame them. Become an abundant, compassionate leader. So an example would be, as Ian quoted, there was a man on a train with 3 children and they were jumping all over the seats. They were running up and down the corridor and the man was completely oblivious to their behaviour. there was lots of people, understandably, tut-tutting and making, sort of comments like, why can't you keep your children under control and everything else? And then one person stepped forward and they said, clearly you're completely detached from, your children, and they seem to be quite happy and they're having lots of fun. And you seem to be quite happy that this is the case. So is there a story? Have you got a reason for this? And he explained, basically, to cut it short, that he'd just been to visit his wife, their mother, and she'd just passed away. So he'd decided that he really didn't mind how they reacted, what they did, and he was just going to make sure they all got home safely. And he said, in a second, the whole mood, the whole opinion, everybody's opinion shifted and changed. So, that's a brilliant example, isn't it, really? Number 8, cruelty or lack of empathy or compassion. Now, again, Ian referred to himself here because he describes himself as a red. So I don't know if everybody's aware of the colour code of personalities, which is an Al Shiner training. If you don't, I'll try and find where it is, because it really did help me in the first place when I joined the business, because it explains that a red person has certain personality traits. Just briefly, go-getters, won't, just completely focused on success, 100% driven, and don't let anybody get in their way. A blue, for example, would be a person that's also very focused and driven, probably entrepreneurial, but also likes a lot of information and likes to know where they're at. But they also like to, be where the party is. So they like to make sure they're where it's all going on. A green is somebody who likes lots of information, so then won't necessarily join the business until they've read absolutely everything, totally understand it, and they don't get that this business is about learning as you go along. So a green person will need to know absolutely everything and be perfect with the knowledge. And then you've got a yellow, and a yellow person is not necessarily commercially driven or money driven, maybe social worker, possibly teacher, people who've got a social awareness, charities, all that sort of thing. So when you're actually meeting a prospect, it's really useful because you can actually try and get to know that person, ask all the questions, remember 2 ears, 1 mouth, and find out about who they are and what turns them on. How this business can therefore be a fit for them. So then you can sort of make sure your presentation and the questions that you ask are leading them to a point of solution, so that they can see that this actually can do something for them. So in terms of being a red, for example, you can be lacking in empathy or compassion. So learn to be mindful and add better traits to your character. It's all, part of the process of controlling your mindset, really, and improving your mindset, going through the whole personal development route, because, you can actually then be aware of that shortness of temper, that focus, that total 100%. You don't want anybody getting in your way, get out of my way, all that sort of thing. So basically, cruelty and lack of compassion can often be caused by lack of sleep or tiredness or whatever. And people can be, they can actually be capable of unkind acts, and you've just got to be aware that might be you. And Ian quoted an air hostess interrupting him mid-flight when he was talking to Sarah Dunning all about the colour traits of people's characteristics. And the air hostess said, "Excuse me, sir, would you like a coffee or a tea or whatever?" And actually sort of put her head right down in between him talking to Sarah. And he said, he just went like this and said, "No, thank you," like this, and dismissed her like this. And Sarah, burst out laughing and said, "That is the red in you, and that is completely unacceptable. She was trying to help you and offer you something, And so he said, I had to realise then that, it's not just about me, and I can't, go through life being like that. So he said, don't be toxic, and work on it. So be compassionate with your team, basically. This is obviously, not just your team, but the wider circle of family and friends. Number 9, cheating or pushing boundaries just because you can. So one thing you can be sure of is that what you do when nobody's looking will show up when everybody is watching. And I think that's a really good statement. So if you think that you can actually get away with cutting corners, not perhaps being totally ethical with your behaviour, be aware that cheating is a choice. Integrity is absolutely everything. You've got to be bigger, and you've got to not cheat, and you've got to be honest with yourself as well as with other people. So there's no caveat. You've got to do the right thing. So when people say, oh, you need to send that person back to where they came from, then you really have to mean it. And you can't have the caveat, oh, but by the way, it's actually up to you. So if you'd like to join my team, then you can, because it is totally down to you. He says be totally honest and straightforward, and obviously karma is a bigger thing, isn't it? So be yourself is number 10. So we're all amazing people, don't forget that, and people buy into us. So help your team be real, help them to celebrate their weaknesses and their strengths. Love them and take the time to look for their good qualities. Help them look for what's good about their intentions, but mainly allow people to be authentic and to be more. So encourage people to be themselves and to be more. Number 11, people who strive for validation. So ask, are you owning your choices? Yeah, don't be that person who's continually striving for other people's validation that what they're doing is right. You need to be fearful. You don't need to be fearful of doing something wrong. Shift from area to region is where we are confident in ourselves, to know that where we're coming from and what we're doing is the right thing, and we don't need validation. We're just confident enough to be able to get on with it. And to be quite honest with you, he says area to region, but that's because the group he was presenting to. But I think it's essential from day one is to build up that confidence in your, obviously, like your training skills, how you approach people, how you do the presentation. It's all about confidence, and there's only you can put that work in. And like the previous thing was, do it when you think nobody's watching, but it will show up whatever you do. So number 12, and this is the last one, is don't seek perfection. Life is constantly evolving. Perfection, therefore, doesn't exist. It can't exist. So if you seek perfection in everything that you do, whether it's your Arbonne business or it's everything outside of Arbonne, it will paralyze you and it will knock you down. So let that mindset go. Look to be excellent. Yeah, so if you're looking to be excellent at being a partner, a friend, son, daughter, mother, that's okay. You can be the best you can be, and you want to be looking to be excellent but not perfect. Don't be a stubborn perfectionist or you will paralyze yourself. I think knowing Ian, he's certainly mellowed and he's certainly got very much kinder and he's got loads of time for everybody. He's certainly been through some kind of training along these lines, because I know he was a perfectionist. And you still can be a perfectionist in your own way, but don't seek to be perfect in the way that you run this business, because it'll never happen. So decide which are your traits. I'll quickly run through them and decide what you need to change to move forward. Harbouring the past and losses and grievances, negative feelings to others, people who've done you wrong or have not done enough. You've got to allow people to be themselves and help them to grow into the best version of them. So maintain emotional stability, breathe and move through it, keep it on a level, and don't focus energy on other people's negative behaviours. So there you go, they're mine. So I'm just going to go through them again in case you missed what they are, so you can just write down. Number 1, envy or jealousy. Number 2, don't take everything too personally. Number 3 is consistently complaining and believing you're a victim. Number 4, learn to let go of the stuff, the loss, the person who's quit, friends who have gone, etc. Just let go of it and let go of the guilt or the anger or any sense of loss. Number 5 is negativity. Don't feel it. Number 6, inability to manage your emotions, so control it. Number 7, making superficial judgments towards others. Don't make a judgment by what they show you. And number 8, cruelty or lack of empathy or compassion. Number 9, cheating or pushing boundaries just because you can. Number 10, be yourself. Be confidently the best person that you can be. And then number 11 is people who strive for validation. Don't be one of those people. Be confident and know who you are. Number 12, don't seek perfection. So that's it. So any questions, Carl?
No, I thought that was good. I thought it was very relevant for me.
Yes, I thought it was very relevant for me as well.
Yeah.
And it is worth taking time now as the homework to literally, jot down. At first I thought there was only 2 that applied to me, but then when I actually looked at it, I realised there was 3. And I think it's worth spending time just writing out exactly in those categories where you think you're falling down. Because I think by writing it out, it makes it more sort of go into your psyche. And then, I've noticed myself doing this in the last 24 hours, especially yesterday, because I was with somebody else, working with somebody else yesterday. And I did realise that I was doing certain things and that they were doing certain things. And it was quite funny, because obviously you've got different character types. And it was good because I was recognising it. And I realised that on Saturday night I'd lost it with my kids as well over certain things. And I thought, right, next time I need to just go into a dark room and go,
Yeah.
So I'm certainly going to practice this. I really am.
Definitely. I think it helps you to be a better person. And I think the main thing that you said is the realising. I think if we can go from day to day, week to week, and month to month, and be those things that you highlighted. And unless you realise it, you can't fix it.
Yeah, I mean, I am absolutely massively guilty until I came across Arbonne of living in the past, and constantly, because I suppose my divorce was acrimonious, and so therefore I was still bringing the kids up by myself. So I was constantly being irritated, annoyed by, my ex-husband's behaviour, my difficulties to cope with what was, was my now. And, gratitude was not something that came easily to me. So I suppose you could even put the, victim, poor me title on my head as well. But, 3 years ago now, that all lifted. It all went. And as I get more and more into this personal development and the positivity and everything, it's pretty much all going. Because I won't allow it. I don't want it in my future. And I get that now, is that if you're not going to drag the past into your future and have the same of what you've been having, you've just got to draw the line. And when those people who annoy you and irritate you come along, you just smile sweetly, because you don't want them to come into your bubble, do you? So
no.
I think it's massively of interest, and going through these 12 pointers as well brought it home to me. I think how far I'd come in the last 3 years. So that makes me very happy. So I'm very, very grateful.
Excellent.
For all of these trainings, and especially Ian's, because they're bang on. And then next Sunday is Dana Collins, and she's one of the amazing EN VPs from the States. And I don't know how many years she's been in the business, but it's got to be at least 15. I don't know. I'll look into that. So that'll be fantastic. So I will copiously take massive amounts of notes and then reiterate it on the call on Tuesday. So in the meantime, I'll do the recording all in one, and then split it into modules, and then do separate calls and elaborate on each section as well. So thanks for joining me. Thanks, Carl.
Cool. Awesome.
Over and out.
Cheers, Bev.
Thank you for coming on.